We are in conversation with Francois Roca, who's the head of Mini for many markets like the Middle East, Eastern Europe, Africa, Asia Pacific, and of course India as well. So Mr. Roca, out of all the markets you're handling, India one of the toughest and maybe most challenging from a volume and sales perspective?
One of the biggest market in the world though, if I'm not mistaken, number 4 in the world, in the region that I oversee, the second largest market. Tough. Definitely, at the moment, the economy is not very good. The market is dipping, minus 2-digit minus for the last 12 or 14 months, yet huge potential. And we're always looking at India with a bright future. We expect some growth to come.
And you know, you've been in this market for a while, but you've always been on that volume has been on the cusp of between CBU and CKD. You had certain CKD operations that stopped. So what's the future? Because it seems to be a bit of a chicken and egg situation. You need the volumes to get the CKD, but with CKD the prices come down, so you get the volumes. So is this a bit of a challenge, and can we see some more commitment as far as local assembly in India goes?
Okay, I think it's not really a chicken and egg. We've always been in India. There's always, how do you say, different
planning.
I meant
from the CKD operations.
Different plannings, which means sometimes we do not have all the elements to produce the CKD in India. We're in India, we've invested here, we have a factory and we stay in India. I can tell you that we are selling in India all the lineup that you can find anywhere else in the world, apart very few niche models. So we're committed, and in the future, anything that will come will be arriving in India. For instance, we have the new Clubman that will be coming in the first quarter of 2020.
Right. So, and just looking at the Indian market, the potential, I mean, volumes have been in triple digits, to be honest. You know, when can we see the big number happening? Is it more to do with product portfolio, which is more suitable to India, or is it the infrastructure that's lacking? What really do you think would be growth drivers in the Indian market for your brand?
As any OEM, of course, we want volume. We have factories that needs to be filled up. Nevertheless, Mini is not about volume. It's all about the brand. So for me, it's not about how many Minis we need to sell in this market to be successful, but more to make sure that we have the customers that are extremely happy with our products, that we engage with them. We have a community. We call it even the tribe that of customers that love our brand. So how many Minis we can sell, God knows in the future. If we're selling more than 3-digit numbers, of course we'll be happy.
Right. And you know, you mentioned that it's not so much the number, but the kind of customers you have. So how is the Mini customer evolving? I mean, are we seeing a more trend towards, you know, someone who was from a performance, looking for a performance, compact, sporty car, looking at more of a lifestyle product? Is it going in that direction and becoming a bit more broad-based, especially given the products that you have right now?
India is no different than the rest of the world. What we have seen in the last, say, 15 years, if you remember, I'm going to use David Beckham, sorry David, but David Beckham 15, 20 years ago was like t-shirts, color, bold, tattoos. Today David has become very, let's say, authentic, much more matured. How do you say, it has changed. So the consumers have changed. India is the same. So back in, actually 4 years ago, we've changed the way we communicate the brand. What we see at the moment is the customers are changing and we're changing with them. So what we see happening is that there's much more need for authenticity. We need to tell the true values of our brand, and this is how we match our customers in this market.
That's interesting. So what you're saying is authenticity is something which is quite important and a credible brand. So do you see you pulling, let's say, first-time Mini car buyers right now in this age? What are they exactly looking for? I mean, you know, different from the traditional Mini buyers.
We don't have one specific categories of customers. In fact, I mean,
right.
We say we're not the car for everybody, so we're the car for the few. But we have different profiles and different ages and different, how do you say, origins and so forth. In India, due to taxations and so forth, the car is quite expensive. In fact, let's face it. So it's only for a few part of the population. Nevertheless, it's really very much the lifestyle. It's part of the family. When I see here in India and I hear my colleagues talking about our customers' profile and I compare this to New York, Japan, or even Germany, people usually give a name of their car and they're part of the family. So this is very unique, I think. It's more lifestyle, it's more this environment, this ecosystem that we're talking about, rather than the USPs, how do you say, the driving pleasure and so forth. Nevertheless, we have a DNA, and our DNA is go-kart feeling. This is in the Mini spirit, it was there. It can be a rational reason to buy the Mini, but the non-rational can be also the lifestyle.
But do you feel that this go-kart feeling sometimes might get diluted with slightly bigger cars, you know, Clubman, Countryman, that sort of thing? I mean, is that a kind of balance you have to keep in mind?
We believe that the go-kart feeling is in every Mini, and we have no compromise on that one. And you will see when we will be introducing, for India I cannot really talk about it, but we've just launched in LA Motor Show actually 24 hours ago, the Mini Electric, full electric, the BEV. It's a complete go-kart feeling experience. And I think if we go back to the, the history of Mini, when Izigonis created in '59 the Mini, if he had the electric engine at that time, he would have put it in the Mini.
Right. You know, talking about electrics, everyone's going electrics. What is your view of electric? I mean, for one, electrics are heavy, which kind of in a way goes against the DNA of a light compact car. Batteries are typically heavy. So, I mean, is there a big future for it? The sense one gets is it has to be a current tick box. You just have to be in that game. But how big the market is, just wanted your thoughts on that.
It's much more than a tick in the box. Actually, for Mini, when we think of the electromobility, first of all, I would say globally, when you look at certain cities, cities will ban, let's say, ICE or combustion engines in their premises.
So you're banking on such regulation?
First of all, regulation will definitely force OEMs that not having electromobility to enter. For Mini, what we think of the future is that we will be the forefront of electromobility within our group, the BMW group. That's one. So when you look ahead of the portfolio, say a couple of years, all the lineup will be electric.
Right. And you know, looking at the city car, or let's say even the small car, it's traditionally been under pressure just from a cost perspective, and you know, typical customers, there's always what we call you know, a cost to size ratio.
Yes.
Especially in markets like India and even possibly China, where just the concept is the bigger the car, the more we'll pay, but the smaller the car, we won't pay so much. Do you think this is a challenge, or in your market it's not so much the size versus cost, but at some level there is, and it would always limit your volumes?
But like I said, we're not looking for volumes. We're not a volume brand. Worldwide, 340, 350,000 units. We're not looking for volume. We're selling less than 1,000 units in India. Are we looking for 10,000 units? I don't know. We'll be happy, but that's not the target. So for us, rather than the price, it's our positioning as a brand.
Right. And you know, but just coming in terms of costs, you know, I mean, when one looks at the cost of the car, especially in India with all the taxes that weigh up, obviously you're competing, again, I know you won't say volumes, but you are competing with other established luxury brands which offer a little bit more practicality and all. That surely must be a challenge in some mind, because you know, practicality does weigh on a certain purchasing decision as well.
I'm going to say something which is maybe a little bit shocking in the OEM industry. We never look at what competition is doing. That's one thing I always urge my team. Do not look at what competition is doing. We have our own positioning. We have our own brand statement. Yes, we can be compared to others in terms of prices, but what we're offering is completely different.
Right. And just wanted to get your sense of, you know, in the regions which you're handling, how is the Mini brand evolving there? I mean, just a quick snapshot of the markets, you know, like certainly more evolved markets like let's say, you know, Japan, that's very, very evolved, very much a Mini market, vis-a-vis, let's say, the Middle East, where everything is XL sized over there.
Well, I mean, we, as a brand, we exist almost everywhere. I mean, everybody knows Mini. It doesn't mean that everybody would buy a Mini. And it's like, if I remember when I was a student, I was dreaming of Porsche, right? Everybody wanted to have a Porsche. Did I buy a Porsche? Actually, I never bought a Porsche. But if you ask me, would you want? I said yes. Now, Mini is very similar. A lot of people want a Mini. Now, even in the Middle East, a lot of people come from the outside of the Middle East, right? They arrive, they live there, they expatriate and so forth. So our brand positioning is quite similar regardless of the country where you are. But when you talk of the size of the region, from Japan to Middle East to South Africa or even New Zealand, yes, we have markets where we are selling a lot of Minis. Japan is almost 25,000 Mini, which is quite substantial. And then we have markets where we're selling a couple of 100 units. So nevertheless, because we're a global brand, we're present almost everywhere.
Right. And you know, just again, you talked about volumes not being that important. Clearly what you're focusing on is in the customer, the experience. So how important is, let's say, the Mini community, and do you think that's an area of focus of, you know, building, let's say, community activities and doing more below the line stuff in promoting the brand?
The community are our best brand ambassadors. In fact, when you look at the SNS today, and when customers are buying a car, a mini car, they blog. They put a lot of information and they share with us, with all the community, how happy they are. Today we call it the tribe, in fact, and we have really a strong strategy to enhance the tribe. We create even in India, actually, we have events where we gather consumers that have bought our mini cars, and we create some events around them. So for us, it's essential.
Right. And just looking future in terms of powertrains going forward, you talked about the BEV, the all electric. Let's talk about hybridization. Diesel, that seems to be a fading powertrain, especially maybe in your segment, completely in the small car segment. How does where do you see the shift in, let's say, powertrain and performance going for Mini as a brand? Yeah.
At the moment, I think there has been a period where everybody is saying diesel will die. Okay, the reality is a bit different. Right. What we believe is that diesel will remain for a number of years. Okay, will not completely disappear. Of course, regulation is especially in certain parts of the world, makes it very difficult for all us, the car industry, to meet certain regulations. So when it comes to, let's say, our models, we offer both. We keep on offering both. When it comes to India, we already made the shift. Actually, we're very much into the Cooper S, which is gasoline, and we're targeting next year probably like 90% of our offer will be petrol.
Right, 90% will be petrol.
Yes.
And the balance will be diesel.
And today we're about 70% or so.
Right. And
petrol.
And do you think that's just the way the market is evolving, or in terms of pricing, that's how it is, or it's just?
It's a customer choice. The reality is, for us, it's a customer choice. We can offer both. Actually, we don't have really strict directions to say we have to be, but as a customer choice, there's really a passion for the Cooper S, right, which is a key seller.
That's interesting. And how does this compare to, let's say, global trends, or let's say in Europe, is there still a demand for diesel?
There is a demand, but the demand is shrinking.
Right, right. So I guess, well, obviously you have synergies with the BMW group in terms of powertrain. So I think at least that way investments are kind of shared to a certain extent. But again, just coming back again to the Indian market, in your view, what are the main kind of challenges? You spoke about the price. Do you think even infrastructure and, let's say, the ability to enjoy a Mini on a weekend or something, again, is a huge limitation?
You're talking of challenges, but I need to say something. In fact, in the last 2 years, we're very happy. When I look at how the market is dipping, we're talking of minus 2 digit, 20, 25%. When we look at Mini growth, last year we grew by 70%. This year I will not give numbers, but at the end of the year we're more or less at the level of last year. So against competition, actually, we're gaining market share. So we're happy with that. I think that's...
But it's a small base, Mr.
It's
Roca.
a very small base. Yeah. It's a very small base. But again, here, we're gaining market share, we're growing. So for me, what is important is not the volume today. It's much more building the brand, establishing the future, be sustainable. And we will have new models that will be coming in this market. When we talked of the BEV, for instance, at the moment. So the challenge is this, we need infrastructure. So when there will be a very, how do you say, large infrastructure, definitely makes sense to have the BEV in the Indian market. Today I would say, well, it can be that we have to be in India with the BEV and then tick in the box. I don't want that.
But a lot of manufacturers are doing that. So you're not going to be rushing in that. You've got Porsche bringing the Taycan, you've got Audi bringing the e-tron, Jaguar's bringing the I-Pace. They've all been announced. At a lower end, Hyundai's brought the Kona. So do you feel that you should have this tick in the box or not necessarily?
No judgment on the other colleagues that are doing what they think they should be doing. For us, we just launched the BEV actually 2 days ago. We're ramping up the production, so they will be servicing the first markets that is near the plant. It will come eventually. When, you will know later.
Right. So it's more a question of when rather than if, because naturally you would want to serve the markets where there's a deeper penetration of electric vehicles. Yeah. So it will come eventually at some point. Okay. So that's good. And just to wind down on let's say looking forward, let's say another 10 years for. It's a very rapidly changing market right now, unprecedented change, very, very disruptive. Do you feel that brands like yours, which are small, manageable, investments are kind of tight and compact, you would have an advantage to be more nimble and agile going forward?
Again, here we think differently. We think we have, this is a unique brand. It has crossed many generations, and we still generate the same passion, and we still have a history that is long ahead of us. When I think of India, it's interesting. I've learned something which I didn't know in India, is that luxury can be perceived negative. Okay, there's somehow a cultural aspect which you shouldn't show too much wealth that you're handling and so forth. And Mini can respond, or can be a response, being in a premium environment, a premium car, yet not to be shown too much. Okay, so that's one. Second, everybody has big cars, SUVs and so forth. We offer something different. So we will always be an alternative offer, a unique offer, and there will always be demand for that.
Wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.